All right, we should be recording. Get rid of the webcam. All right, and let me just check real quick if you could give me down in the little chat box down here. Just real quick, let me know that you can still hear me. Or you can just tell me. Christina says she can hear. Jim says yes. Ryan says audio is good. All right. Danielle says yes. All right, good. Well, in that case, we will just go. One of the things you're going to find, I should probably make sure too, right now what I assume you are seeing is pretty much what would be my homepage when I log into my online classes. You can see that, in fact, lucky for me, I'm full-time faculty at Rasmussen, so I get a lot of online classes. I have a section of practical math. I have two sections of this class, so some of you might be in section 1, some of you might be in section 2. And then I have a section of contemporary leadership challenges. So I get a lot of variety, usually every quarter, which is fun for me. I like that part. It makes it just a little bit more interesting for me. Other than that, what I'm going to do with GoToMeeting is just basically walk you through this group project or team project, and let me make a couple prefacing statements. I'll just pick section 1. The two look exactly the same. I'll just pick section 1. The first thing that I need to tell everybody, and I do this every time I do this class, I did not create the team project. It is not my idea to do a team project in an online class. That being said, what I will tell you is I've gotten to where I love the team project because you guys are all business majors. You are going to be involved in teams, and you're certainly going to be involved in teams that are not all in the same room, in the same building at the same time. So I think the fact that you get some experience with online teams is probably very useful to you in an educational setting. That being said, I will also tell you, and some of you have read my bio, so you know that I've gone to college a lot. I have a number of college degrees, and one of the things I could never stand in college was, in fact, the team project. Just not a big fan of the group project or the team project. I like doing my own work, getting it done in my own time frame, and not dragging a bunch of people behind me. So, how do we make this team project a little bit better? Let's talk about what it is, and then we will talk about the one thing that I always worried about. What do we do about the free riders? Because free riders are certainly an issue in any kind of team project. Let me make sure that everyone's still with us here. Any questions so far? Danielle, Christina, Jim, Ryan, everyone still good? All right. Good. Good. All right. Well, in that case, what you can see, I'm hoping on your screen right now, is what most of you see when you log in, except that I'm hoping the little scroll on yours would normally have your name, not mine. I never have any way to check that, but I'm assuming people would tell me if it just was my name all the time. The announcement section here, which I'm guessing you guys have all found, this is what it looks like for everybody. I haven't done that for a while. We'll refresh that for a while. There. Yeah, that makes a big difference. Look at there. So, what is the team project? Most of you have figured out. I use the little tabs on top. I go to the lessons area. I scroll all the way to the bottom on mine because that's where course materials lives on my screen. Now, one of the things I like about course materials is once you're there, of course, you have all of the team project assignments. So part 1 is week 7, part 2 is week 8, week 9, week 10, week 11. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I say that, and then every quarter we run into things that aren't. So let's just walk through it a little bit. What is the project about? That's probably the biggest difference between the team project and the individual project. The team project is really about the 4 functions of management. The 4 functions of management, which are planning, organizing, leading, and control. And depending on where you went to school and where else you've gone, you may have learned them differently. I think the first time I had them, it was planning, staffing, leading, and control. But there's always some planning function, some getting resources together function, some leading them, and of course that feedback control function kind of thing. Week 1, pretty much like the individual project or part 1, pick an organization that's been in business for at least 20 years. Okay, I say that because you are going to examine how management practices have changed over time. So you need a company that's been in its current form for at least 20 years. Don't pick one. Someone last quarter picked a company that was a spin-off of an old company, but the spin-off they picked had only been in business for about 2 years. There's not much information out there. The idea of the core of this project is how does planning, organizing, leading, and control, how did that change over the 20 years, more or less, that your company has been in existence? Now, some people are going to pick Coca-Cola, Pepsi. These things have been in business forever and a day. You have no problem finding history on those whatsoever. But, you know, that's the gist of it. So in week 7, the first week of the project, all your team really needs to do is land on a company, but keeping in mind the focus of the project is going to be the 4 functions of management and how they've changed over time. You are undoubtedly, I don't want to scare you, but you are undoubtedly going to end up with 1 or 2 team members that are pretty sure that the point of the project is ethics and corporate social responsibility. They would have been smack on right if they were still doing the individual project, but the group project, the team project, is about 4 functions of management. Questions on that? That's really, once you get that part, the rest of the project is pretty simple. So any questions on what the basic idea of the project is? Wow, you guys are either really sharp or I'm doing a fabulous job explaining. So let's just assume they're really sharp because this is kind of a strange way. Yeah, that's it. There we are. Good deal. I like Ryan there. All right. All right. So once you've figured out what you're going to do on the project, what company you're going to pick, and I guess as a hint, the other thing I would look at if you're looking at how planning, organizing, leading, and control have changed over time, find a company that's had a few different CEOs over time, because every CEO is going to bring in their own management style, their own, what some CEOs are really big on planning. Some CEOs are really fabulous leaders. Some CEOs are really more about the control. So it's, and if you can find a company that's had a couple different CEOs over the last 20, 30, 40 years, that might be a really good choice. Or even a company like Apple that's had the same CEO a couple different times over the last 20 years might be an interesting study as well, but that's sort of up to you. So anyway, that's, of course, week 7, pick the company. In week 8, which is part 2, now it starts looking pretty similar to the individual project. Here's a great shot. In week 8, it's 6 quality resources, history, background, 1 to 2 page annotation. One of the things that I will tell you about this that gets confusing to people, each member of the team is going to want to identify 6 sources. At the end of the day, the beauty of the team project is you might end up writing your final paper with 20 sources. You know, most of you are in a team with 5 or 6 other people. You may end up with 20 useful sources. The other thing I would say, don't be surprised if your team members each pick 6 sources and you start looking through them and each of you has 2 or 3 that overlap. That's not unusual either once you've picked your company. But, you know, the second week of the project, part 2, is similar to the individual project. It is that wonderful annotated bibliography. And there again, most people did pretty good on that in the individual project. A lot of you have figured out how to use Noodlebib or APA, so you're good on that. And obviously the advantage in putting the resources early on in the project is by the time you go to write, you've already got your resources, you've already done some annotation, the paper is starting to pull itself together for you. All right. Third week, a little bit different. If you remember, the third week in the individual project was an interview. The third week in the team project can be an interview, but it's basically what's called primary data. Now, I will undoubtedly post an announcement when we get close to there with a definition of primary data. This is one of the few times I have to tell you I will actually go out to Wikipedia. And Wikipedia's definition of primary data is pretty good. You're basically trying to get data from the horse's mouth, if you will. So, for example, if the organization is publicly traded, they're going to have a 10K. A 10K to me would be primary data. If you go to Hoover's, which is just summarizing the company's 10K, Hoover's would not be primary data. So if you're going to use financial data, please go right to the company's 10K. That makes wonderful primary data. If some of you are familiar with 10Ks, besides the numbers, you will find that 10K filings have a ton of wonderful management discussion and analysis, management DNA. And those can be just a wealth of information on the 4 functions of management. So there's sort of a free hint for you on that. If you find interviews, that's great. The beauty, again, of being a team project is one person in the team might be assigned to look for an interview. Another person in the team might be, you know, real 10K oriented and will do the SEC search. Someone else may look for some other press releases that the company has put out. As long as it's primary data, you know, and here again, obviously the more the merrier. Take advantage of the fact that you're working in a team. All right. Let's see. That must be week 7, 8, 9. That's going to be week 9 is part 3. Part 4 is the draft, which means that essentially in week 4 you're going to generate a draft. Are we going to do peer review? No, we're not, because part 5 is week 11, so we're not going to do peer review. Why aren't we going to do peer review? Well, basically because you're already in a team and the team is creating the draft. So the assumption, at least on my end, is that you all are going to peer review each other's work. This is where the team starts getting to be really handy. I can guarantee you that within each team, there'll be at least one person who's really good at APA and at least one person that still doesn't know what that means. There'll be at least one person that's great on citations, another person that thinks that what you really should do is just copy-paste everything off the internet. That's the beauty of the team project. But there'll be one person who is just a fabulous writer. And you'll all go, oh my God, I wish I could write like that. So find out what the team's strengths are and go from there. So the 4th week, you know, part 4 is the draft, and that gets turned into me. I will do my best when I get those drafts. to make any comments and get them back to you quick, because of course part 5, which is week 11, which is the very last week, is submit the final paper. Not too tricky at all. And of course by then it's the middle of March and we're all anxious, we're all eager to go somewhere. Some of us may be anxious, but most of us are probably eager to do something and get somewhere warm. So let me stop there. Questions? Yes, you'll have 6, absolutely, Christina. But when you first start out in your group, everyone's going to have 6 different ways they want to go. Some teams will love to do the I know, let's hold a vote routine. Other teams, the team leader will say, well, you know, why did we pick these? You know, it's anyone's guess. Recommendations on working from one document as a team. Well, Brian, yeah, my recommendation is find something free out there on the cloud that's better than the team forum. Oh my God, did I say that out loud on a Rasmussen presentation? The team forum to me, yeah, the team, oh damn. The team forum to me, Ryan, would be about the last place I would go. Google Docs, I'm pretty sure it's still free or whatever it's gone to now. I know it's not Google Docs anymore, but I still think of it as Google Docs. There's tons of good stuff out there where people can make changes to the same document. You know, I will have to agree that, you know, the team forum is better than nothing. But what happens is you get a lot of overlap. So, and that's kind of up to each individual team leader. And I should probably pull out my little list and let's see. Ryan, I see you're definitely a team leader. So my suggestion to you, Ryan, on that would be whatever you think. If you have something you're very familiar with, Christina, you're also a team leader. Ryan is in section 1. Christina is in section 2. That means, Ryan, you must be somewhere in the St. Cloud area. Christina, you're probably in North Dakota somewhere, if I'm guessing. Who else did I see? I had Nicole for a while. Is Nicole still with me? No, Danielle. Oh, where have I lost Danielle at? I haven't lost you, Danielle. You are in section 1, team 3. You're on Naomi Fanenstein's team, if I remember right, which looks like it's going to be an extremely strong team. And Jim, you are on team 5 of section 1, which also kind of got off to a slower start, it seemed to me, in the peer review stuff. But at the end, you guys kind of all pulled it through together. So. But yeah, at the end of the day, if you can find some place to do shared documents outside of the team forum, that's fine. Same thing goes for just basic communication. The team forum and the online shell email to me is sort of a last-ditch place to go. Most people nowadays have unlimited text messaging on their phone, so they're happy to text you all day, every day. Some people even just like a personal phone call, whatever you guys find. I had a group last quarter, the entire 5 weeks of the group project, I never saw a thing in the team forum. The first couple of weeks I was like scared out of my mind because I thought I had an entire team that had just dropped off the face of the planet. But their stuff would always come in. It was always fabulous stuff, and I realized about the 3rd week in that they had managed to do the entire project and never one time used the team forum. So, you know, I will also warn you about that. Anything that you all put in the team forum, I can see as well. If you're looking to manage this more like a work project and you really don't need me, want me looking over your shoulder, obviously anything you do outside of the team forum is totally your business. I don't need, I guess maybe that's the best way I can say it. I don't need it to be in the team forum. If you want to do it in the team forum, you certainly can, but I don't need it to be in the team forum. Other questions on the project itself, and I'm going to get a little bit into what the team leaders need to do because we've got a couple of team leaders, and for those of you that aren't team leaders, it'll probably be useful to know what your team leader needs to do, and for people listening to it on YouTube later on, they'll be going like, oh, thank God, I was wondering what I was supposed to be doing. So, all right, we're all still good so far? All right. So, what do I expect out of a team leader? What do I expect out of a team leader? It's really pretty simple. First of all, you only get to submit one document per week per team. So, for instance, if I look at Ryan's team right now has 5 people in it because I think I moved a person out of Ryan's team and put them somewhere else, or maybe they just dropped. I'm not sure. But anyway, Ryan's team looks to me like it's got at least 5 people in it. Let's put it that way, possibly 6. I am not going to take 6 different submissions in week 7. Week 7, which is the beginning of the project, was pick a company. I've tried doing that in the past. I have, in fact, realized that that was a mistake on my part because if I let everyone in a team submit, what I end up getting are 5 documents, no 2 of which are exactly alike. And then I started saying to myself, wait a minute, if this is a team, how come the documents are different? And then I started realizing that, well, what's happening is everyone is just working as individuals regardless of whether or not they're in a team. I would actually get people on the same team that were doing completely different companies, which struck me as quite odd and obviously not the point of the team project. So a few quarters back, and I've been teaching this thing for several years, a few quarters back I decided, no, what we're going to do is we're going to take 1 submission per team each week. And so Ryan will be the only person on his team that turns anything into me. Yes, Christina's absolutely right. It says, so week 8, which is the annotated bibliography. By the time it gets turned into me, and by the time Christina's team is ready to submit, Christina will be the only one on her team that turns a document into the Dropbox. She can absolutely assure the rest of her team that if a document gets turned in, they will still get a grade. Everyone will get a grade, okay, and we'll talk about how they get a grade in a minute. But at the end of the day, if I've got 5 teams, and in fact each one of my sections has 5 teams, there will only be 5 submissions each week, okay, 1 from each team. And I take it from the team leader. Now, what happens if a team leader can't make it? Okay, exactly. What if it's turned in late because the team leader is sick or something happens? Geez, you know, I can't imagine how anything could happen. It's been the most wonderfully smooth year on the planet. But hypothetically, I suppose, you've got 2 choices. If you're the team leader and you know it's going to be late because something's happened to you, by all means, send me an email. You know, if we're talking a day, you know, I'm out of town, I got trapped, somehow it snowed, and I got trapped, and the ditch was already full, there wasn't any place for me to drive my car. You know, just shoot me an email and let me know. That's not a problem. The other option is the team leader can always shoot me an email earlier on in the week and say, you know, I'm going to be on vacation for a week. You know, I'm going to assign, you know, Christina can look and say, well, you know, I think we'll have Miss Unger be our team leader for a week. So, good point. Well, you know, you could text me, though. Yeah, you can have an assistant team leader. Now, to Jim's point on assistant team leader, for those of you that are team leaders, it would not be a bad idea for you in week 1 to see if you have someone else. Some of the teams have people that were kind of iffy about wanting to be leaders, and so I put them in teams, not as leaders, but they probably love to be an assistant team leader. Other teams, there's probably people on them now that we've gone through this peer review process that are starting to get a feel for how the team thing's working, and they're saying, oh, well, I wouldn't mind helping. Every team, I don't care if everyone in the team wants to act as a team leader, as long as at the end of the day I get one submission per team each week. I simply won't look at more than one, and so I guess that's kind of from a team standpoint figured out. But I have no problem. Jim, you're on a team. I think your team leader is Miss Albright. If you find that, heaven forbid, you find in week 7 that she's not even showing up, feel free to shoot me an email saying that, you've decided you're going to step in for that weekend, and we'll work on it from there. Please do not. I guess I should say this. I did have a team a couple quarters back where the team leader, the person that was team leader who said they wanted to be team leader, thought that the reason they wanted to be team leaders, they would just do the project all on their own and not involve anyone. So for those of you that are with me tonight, for those of you that might be listening to this on the YouTube archive, if you find yourself on a team where your team leader is not involving you, the sooner you let me know, the better. If we're in the middle of week 11 and this particular team waited until Sunday of week 10 to let me know they had a problem, there's not a lot of time left for me to adjust teams. On the other hand, if I find out at the end of week 7 that we have a team where the leader has somehow fallen off the face of the earth, then we'll leave it up to that team to decide whether they want to continue on as a team with a different leader or whether they want me to assign them to other teams. Now, you can see the later it goes, if one team's doing Apple and the other team's doing Microsoft, by the time we get 2-3 weeks into this, I can't really assign people to different teams. Because we're not normally going to have teams doing the same companies. Actually, I like the team project from that standpoint better than the individual project. I'm kind of getting tired of reading papers on Walmart. But that's just me. Team member expectations. Well, that's the second duty of the team leader, Christina. And so aren't you glad you asked? One of the things that bothers me about team assignments, especially in college, is there's always 1 or 2 people that are hanging on in the background and figure that, oh, thank God this is a group project, and their contribution to the group is, well, I'll be happy to type the paper. Seriously, everyone can type. It's online school. If you don't know how to type, what are you doing in online school in the first place? As the team leader, one of the things that I will look to you each week is to do 2 things for me when you turn in your paper. When you turn in the weekly assignment, number 1, please only put the names of people who you feel contributed to that assignment on the assignment. So, Christina, your team's got 5 people in it. If you have someone in week 8 that you never hear from, doesn't do anything, just don't put their name on the paper that week. That will tell me that as far as you're concerned, and you're the team leader, as far as you're concerned, they didn't participate significantly enough to deserve any points. So they will not get any points. Now that covers the extremes. The people that participate 100% get whatever points. If it's a 50-point assignment and your paper earns 45 points, obviously everyone that contributed gets the same 45 points. The people that didn't contribute at all get 0. The trick is, what about the ones in the middle? That's kind of where I ask the team leaders to send me an email each week. So Christina might end up sending me an email saying that, well, gee, Emily and Taylor were there the whole time. They contributed. I couldn't have done this paper without them. They're at 100%. And one of the other people in the group never showed up at all. That's a 0. And the third one, made one of our meetings, contributed a little, maybe about 50%. What you will find then, you'll never see their grades, but what you will find then is on my end, if they only contributed 50% and the paper earns 45 points, they're going to get 22.5 points. They're going to get 50% of the grade. I find that if we stick to that, especially in the first couple weeks, we really get the people that are serious. Are you all going to end up on a team with at least one person that doesn't participate at all? Yep. I'm sorry, but that's exactly what's going to happen. Primarily because, as you are all probably aware, this is just week 6. I had to assign the teams already, but week 6 is always a big drop week for Rasmussen. So there will be some teams that now have people that wanted to drop, but were too lazy to pick up the phone and drop. So they're what we call drops in place. They're still in class. They've just decided not to do anything. And some of you are on teams, and you noticed that even in the peer review. No one turned in a paper for peer review. It's like, really, wow, what are we going to do here? But, that's how it goes. So is it a perfect system? No, absolutely it's not. But over the quarters I've done this, what I find is it kind of takes each team and puts you into sort of 3 tiers. You have the tier of people that really understand the point of a team project, that want to learn from it, that want to get some benefit out of it, that see that it's not just about writing the paper, but it's also about learning how to work in a virtual team. You know, I mean, it's not just the paper. You're going to find that I grade the paper fairly leniently. But what I do look at is whether or not it seems like, you know, is it functioning as a team? You'll have that second tier that just never shows up, and each team leader will have at least one of those, and they'll shoot me an email about the 3rd week into it saying, gee, I haven't heard from Billy Bob, whatever happened to Billy Bob, and I'm going to say, oh, well, you know, Billy Bob's got that Duck Dynasty show thing going, and he's just not in school anymore. You know, and then you'll have that middle tier of people who, yeah, you'll have that middle tier of people who are just starting to get the hang of participating. They maybe haven't been in college quite as long. They're maybe not real sure how this team thing goes. Actually, I'm more than a little nuts, Christina, but thanks. You know, this is the only job I could find after the junior high debacle. But, you know, I think that you will find most people are going to find if they give this project a chance, and it's like anything else, if they can give it a chance, if they can get in week 1 and, you know, the first couple weeks, be part of that picking the company, understand the 4 functions of management, which makes a really nice paper to write about. To be honest with you, the 4 functions of management, a whole lot easier topic than ethics and corporate social responsibility. Those are kind of soft, wishy-washy terms. The 4 functions of management are, you know, pretty massively defined all over the planet. So it gives a lot more direction. Each team will function a little differently. Some teams I have found in the past, some teams want to assign each function of management to a different team member. You know, one person takes planning over 20 years and how it's changed, and another person takes organizing over 20 years and how it's changed. Whereas some teams kind of like to go the other way. They just, you know, some teams I've seen split it up in years. One person takes the first 10 years, another person takes the next 5 years, and so on and so forth like that. So, you know, however the teams go, what I find is the end results, and I think you guys are all going to find the same thing, and the people watching the YouTube are going to remember this at the end. By the time this is done, your final project ends up being pretty impressive. It's got that stupid 5 to 8 page thing in it, which is, by the way, a minimum, not a maximum. But most people are going to crank out 15 to 20 pages. It'll be effortless, and you're going to look at this and say, my God, this is one of the best college papers I've ever written, and you're going to hang on to this thing. So it's a tool. It's a learning tool. And yes, James, I have to agree. You know, CSR to me, especially the first time I taught this class, I was old school. CSR meant customer service rep. And it took me a while to, yeah. Yeah, good luck. Rasmussen hasn't been in business 20 years. Yeah, I know. Still does. Still does to me, too. I'm not sure how it morphed into corporate social responsibility. Now, Rasmussen predecessors been around over 100 years, but they got bought out right about when I started, so about 8 years ago. Yeah, you'd never find any information. But if you like schools, Christina, and you want to think of a school, check out Apollo Group. Apollo Group is publicly traded, and they are the group that owns University of Phoenix. Yeah, you notice in my posts, I don't even type responsibility anymore. I just go CSR. It's faster. But, all right. Other questions you guys might have? Anything else that you can think of that someone else? Will the Wild win tonight? You know, anything could happen. Yeah. Brian, I have to be honest with you though. I'm old school here, and hockey to me has always been very confusing. When I lived in Minnesota, I actually lived in Minnesota and then moved away for 30 years and came back to take care of my mother. When I lived in Minnesota, they had the North Stars. Then the North Stars left and went to Dallas. When I was living in Phoenix, the Winnipeg Jets left Winnipeg and came to Phoenix. So now, to me, I mean, hockey in Dallas, hockey in Phoenix, it's not really hockey anymore. It's just, a small version of football on ice. Yeah, Dallas had the North Stars. Dallas has everything, Christina. Dallas is its own little country. Ask anyone that lives there. As far as Dallas is concerned, it should be its own little country. Well, but realistic, Jim, what's natural ice anymore? I don't go out to the lake and chop ice so that I can cool my beer. I use the ice that comes out of the refrigerator. Are you really, Christina? July in Dallas. July in Dallas. A wedding. Well, Christina, wear something, a lot of polyester. It'll be wonderfully comfortable in Dallas in July. Yeah. Brian, it is challenging, but at the same time, and obviously those of you that are team leaders are going to find that you like this even better. But while it's a challenge, it really does give you a kind of a non-threatening environment to figure out how to make virtual teams work. And I have to tell you, to throw this on a resume, to be able to throw this out at a job interview, that you've had experience in a virtual team setting is going to put you really a step ahead of a lot of people that are in business today. Because you've got lots and lots of people whose idea of a meeting is, well, we all get together in a big room and have coffee and donuts and sandwiches. And the virtual team environment is going to be very much so the wave of the future. Number one, it's more efficient. I'm sitting here, at my own computer running a meeting, and if someone says, by the way, I've got a question on something, I can, where do we find the writing lab? I can say, well, gee, you go to resources, you click on resources. When you're on resources, you scroll down to the bottom of that page to where it says online tutoring, and right there at the bottom of online tutoring it says writing lab, and you click on that. I can show people that remotely, whereas if I've had to carry all my stuff to some other meeting, maybe there's a Proxima, maybe not, maybe I show them on my laptop, but then people are crowding around. It's just so much more effective to me. I have entire classes that I have taught just using GoToMeeting. There are residential classes where I've never actually physically been able to reach out and touch the people. Where teams have access to a tool like GoToMeeting. Boy, I wish I could give you my GoToMeeting account, Brian. I cannot. is GoToMeeting reasonable? Well, Christina, you know, beats me. I didn't pay for it. But you know, yeah, WebEx is good. You know, Adobe Connect is out there as well. They might have a trial version. I mean, that's the other thing I would look at. Some of these things. For all I know, GoToMeeting has like a 30-day free trial version, and 30 days would pretty much get you, you know, the end of the quarter is what, the 17th. You know, 30 days would probably just about get you to the end of the quarter, and so I would look. GoToMeeting might do a free trial. Adobe Connect might do a free trial. I'm not familiar with WebEx, but it sounds very similar. So those are all good ideas. Yeah, I like that. Good question. See, and that's why we run these things, because then people get to ask questions. Another suggestion I have for people, and I know people do doc sharing, I would try Skype. You know, Skype is free to everybody. You can get people on conference calls on Skype. You can do document sharing via Skype. Yeah. Oh, Christina, you must have had some classes that had like the live lecture components, like B-136 and stuff like that. Yep. Yep. Oh yeah. Well, you know that the math class that I do has those live lectures, and you know, once you get people past that first week to attend, the ones that attend, it's just like love them. And I keep telling the school, why don't you just do that for all of your classes? But then again, you know, that's just me. But I know a lot of people absolutely love those things. So, all right. Other questions? Other comments? Yeah, well, that's true. But on the other hand, you know, you don't have to actually get dressed and shaved to do a virtual class either, which is really handy for me. Well, you know, only from the neck up, Christina. Think about it. Yep, just downright scary. Yeah. Does the other questions? I know we've got a couple people that are team leaders. Other team leading questions? And I will send emails out to the team leaders with this in it as well. And please also, I should probably also, for those of you that are team leaders and those people that are watching this later on YouTube, anything that I share with the team leaders, please feel free to share with your team. You're going to find that I will treat this very similarly to a team in a work environment. I may, you know, send Christina an email or a comment with the full expectation that she's going to share it with the team. How many days should we give for a leader to start taking control? To be perfectly honest with you, Jim, in the group you're in, if you don't see or hear from your leader by Monday morning of week 7, I would feel free to jump right in there. I'm not sure what's going on in that group, but right now, as close as I can tell, everyone on that team did a rough draft except the team leader.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. So, what the heck? Yeah, worst case scenario, you can always say, well, you know, maybe we'd like an assistant leader, just throw something out there. It isn't going to hurt teams to have multiple leaders as long as, like I say, at the end of the week, I just get one submission per team. All right. Other questions? Other comments? Everyone's good? Anything else you'd like to see on my screen, how I get to? All right. Good heavens, we just blasted through almost an hour at a time. It's going to take poor GoToMeeting another 3 hours to convert this into a YouTube file, but it'll be there. And by all means, any other questions that come up, online teaching is my full-time job. I'm not an adjunct. I am a full-time faculty member on the St. Cloud campus. So I am into my online classes usually 2-3 times a day. Frequently in the mornings. Sometimes I have to go to campus in the middle of the day for stuff, and then I get back in the afternoons. I usually check every day, at least once a day on weekends. I'm a CPA, among other things, and this is tax season. So Saturdays I do a lot of volunteer income tax work, but I still try to check in. So yeah, if you have any tax questions, fire away. For those of you in St. Cloud, if you've got tax questions, I do free income taxes at Salvation Army every Saturday. Bring them on down.
Hear that?
Yeah, the IRS is out of money, but the good news is the Treasury will just print more. Yeah, it won't be worth anything, but what the heck? Yeah, you can drive. Yeah, perfect. Danielle, how do you think I feel? I'm trying to collect Social Security. When there's no money, what am I going to do? They'll just have to give me free government stuff. $400 hammer, $5,000 toilet seat. Important stuff. I appreciate that. Yeah, government cheese. Yeah, yeah, indeed. All right, I think I'm going to wrap this up. You guys know how to get hold of me. Shoot me email, Skype me, call, whatever it may be. And I'm gonna turn off the recording here. Hang on a minute.